I mean, I think the biggest thing is, like, when it comes to politics, like, you learn, you grow, you develop, right? So for myself, I had to reevaluate my political ideology, and I realized that Marxist-Leninist thought answers the problems that I had with the capitalist system, but actually has real solutions that have manifested themselves in real life.
All right, hello. I'm here with Randall, and we're just hanging out. Randall, how are you?
Pretty good. How about you?
I'm doing good. But yeah, I thought you'd be a good person to have on the show, just because you're a good role model for everyone. I say, you should listen to Randall. You should listen to someone like that. But
Well, I appreciate that.
Yeah, and Randall had a good idea for the. We're trying to come up with creative solutions, and we're in, rather than just polemic or just whip-de-woo, but Randall, as far as the homeless population goes, he's saying pretty much deportation, right? This is.
Yeah, I mean, originally my thought, I would see these people on the street. My original thought was like, we should just round these people up and execute them. But I think there is a better solution, and this came up. I don't know. This came up several months ago, but basically, in a city near me, that there are, there's a blight of bums there, and they had started to, there's like some nice people who want to help, who run a kitchen or whatever, but like the homeless camp had begun to like crowd the whole thing and like spill out into the streets, and anyway, the town basically said like, we're gonna shoo these people away. Like anything we find on the street, we're just gonna bring a big dumpster. And if it's on the street, Tuesday morning or whatever, we're just going to throw everything in the dumpster. So then they all dispersed. But before they did that, they had a meeting. They had a meeting and called people, from the area and said, okay, we're having this meeting. Like, what do you think we ought to do? And so, my pastor went to this meeting, thinking like, our church is not very far from the place. So he was like, this is probably something I should go to. And he brought it up one night as like, I didn't really speak at the thing, but, if they have another thing like this, what are some, what do you guys think? What are the solutions here? And of course, you hear the usual, well, if we had such and such a program, or, well, if we just could help them out, it's kind of like, these people aren't even liberal, but they're bleeding heart in a way. Where they think, if we just had the right program, if we could just give them the resources that they need or whatever, and my thought is that there's no way. If you live in modern day America, like, you have all the resources you need, and if you don't want them, then basically, if you don't want the help, then no one's going to help you, and that goes for any facet of life. If you don't want help, or if someone doesn't want help, it's going to be impossible to help that person. And that's really the way that these bums are. And I do like to make a distinction between, someone who's just homeless, meaning they don't have a permanent place to live, and someone who is a bum. A bum you see on the corner with a sign, or, sleeping in a tent in the park or whatever. I've met homeless people out soul winning who, are on a way to, clean rooms in a hotel, and they're staying at the local mission or whatever. Those people, you're trying to get your life together, and you have a job, and you're not high or drunk or whatever. Okay, don't really have a problem with those people. They're gonna get somewhere if they keep at it. But these people who go out on the streets and they lay in their tent, and they've got, a shopping basket full of, sleeping bags and trash bags and whatever. I just detest these people. Anyway, so the solution is, though, rather than just outright execute them, I think we should send them to Mexico. And I think that this is I think that it's actually a pretty compassionate solution, because in Mexico, you don't have to worry about like harsh winters. It's nothing like that. I mean, those people basically live on the street already, so you're with people who are like you. That's where all the drugs are. So you don't have to get your drugs imported to America if you want to like get stoned out of your mind and kill yourself with drugs. So you can just do that in Mexico. Doesn't have to be our problem. And I also think that these people are a bit of leverage. I think for every illegal immigrant that comes across the border that Mexico doesn't stop, we should send a drug-addicted bum to go live in Mexico. And that can just be their problem. I think that we should do the same thing with violent criminals, too. I think it should be like you always hear about the prisons being overcrowded or whatever. Like, just take these people and send them to Mexico and just tell Mexico, like, okay, as soon as you build a wall and stop these people from crossing, then we'll stop sending these the scum of our society into your country. I think it's a good way to do that. And I think too, the demand for drugs in America goes down if you send this large population of drug addicts into Mexico. So I think it's a pretty humane solution. One that's a little bit more tolerable to most people than just rounding these people up and executing them. That probably wouldn't go over that well as a public policy. But sending them to Mexico, I think it's pretty humane actually, and I think that it's better for them and it's better for us. So I think we should do it.
It is humane in that it hits a few birds with one stone. And I mean, I've seen where, like you mentioned, I lived in Hawaii for several years, and homeless people manage to find plane tickets and get out there because because it's the perfect place to be a homeless bum in some ways. In other ways, it's not optimal for them. Like drugs are very expensive in Hawaii. They're not in Mexico. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
But nevertheless, a tropical climb. It's a matter of, I mean, there's logistical issues here in getting them there. But I think a lot of homeless people would agree. But you're right. I mean, you have to, it's hard to define, I mean, who we're talking about with the homeless people. And the misconception here is that these are like the poor. They're like, these are poor people. And actually, a lot of the homeless it's a lifestyle.
Oh, yeah.
They're lifestyle homeless because everyone knows some wastrel types who are maybe from upper middle or even upper class who choose to like go into this lifestyle and be like the rat king of the bums, where they're like, because in the in the these circles of like drug addicts, and so there'll be the smarter one, or there'll be the leader, or there'll be kind of the leading lights of and they people choose to get into this. But the whole thing is, I mean, it is a problem. It's not something that we can't just address anymore. So
yeah, I mean, my take on it is that we've built a society, and people who refuse to live within the confines of that society, meaning you can't just sleep on the street, you can't just shoot up drugs, in front of a church building. You can't, these are things that you can't do in a normal, healthy society. And whether the rules are written or not, I don't think even matters. I think that if, this is the society that we as a people in America have built, and if you want to go completely against it and live, basically form your own society that exists within that, benefits from all of the infrastructure and the people's generosity and all these things, and you want to more or less exploit that to just get high all the time, then there's no place for you. So it's time to go. You can go to Mexico and live out the rest of your life there and do whatever you want, but it's not our problem. And at some point too, you have to say, in the same way, if you had a sister or a brother or whatever, and they were a drug addict, like you wouldn't just enable that by saying, well, let me give you a place to live, let me pay all of your expenses, let me put you up in this house or apartment, let me provide you with a steady stream of income for doing nothing. You wouldn't do that because, one, it wouldn't be the best thing for them, and two, it would be a total waste of your money to do that. Like, you're not helping them in any way. But it is because they don't want to be helped. Like, they're gonna take advantage of you, and they're gonna do whatever they can. They don't care about you. They don't care about anything. And so, I think the idea that, like, oh, if they just had more, if they just had more resources, if they just had more money, if they just had more people in their lives or whatever, that none of that matters, because at one point almost all these people had someone in their lives. They had a house, or maybe not a house, but a place to live. They had these things, and they like you said, they chose to live a different lifestyle and throw that away. And so I think that if that's the way that you want to live, like, okay, at some point we as a society have to decide we're not going to be a party to this anymore. We're just going to send you away where we're not enabling this. So if someone else wants to enable it, fine, whatever. It's not our problem. But yeah, go to Mexico and do this stuff. Don't make it where kids can't walk around in a park without stepping on a needle. Or you can't even go to the park because there are all these crazy people with tents up, and you have no idea what they're going to do at any time. Like, you can't even enjoy the benefits of a nice society because there's all these people ruining it.
Right, everything exists just for them to ruin it,
Yeah.
And you see that where they put these parks in, and they put like a splash pad at the park for like little kids to play, but then because of the splash pad, the water element, they put showers in, and then it's over.
Yeah.
Because with the showers there, good luck getting that splash pad around all the bums and all that.
Right.
It just ruins it. And you're right. I mean, they exist. They're in the society. They live an anarchic existence.
Yeah.
And contribute nothing. But if it was all people doing that, quickly they'd have to. You couldn't just have a bum colony, because then they'd run into problems like other bum warlords or whatever, like,
Yeah, it would be like, I mean, if you think about the way that like a lot of African countries operate, that's literally what it is. It's entire countries full of bums that are ruled by warring warlords.
Right. Yeah, it's total anarchy,
Yeah.
And even I mean, that's why something like that would be the place for these people, where they could live like this, like their lawless kind of existence. But yeah, I mean, instead they live in the security that is provided by everybody, and on the kindness of everybody who people want to look at these guys like and treat them with like respect and dignity, like as a human being and so forth. But
Yeah.
it gets really misplaced with this. Is the problem, like you said, they're not just poor. I mean, there are people who a lot of them maybe have no hope of just living to the civilizational standard, but for the most part, it's a choice. Accommodations have been made for people who want to work. At the same time, there are it is difficult, I guess, for a lot of people to get by nowadays. A lot of people are having a hard time, but this is a separate issue, really. Than the bums are making it harder on those people. Like the people who are just barely making it. Then now they have the bums kind of nipping at their heels, because it's just a blight on everywhere. I mean, it's not that bad where I'm at, but I've seen where it's really, like, you go to California, and the bum problem is totally out of control. And
Yeah.
I mean, it was in Hawaii as well, because it's encouraged, and there's churches who will feed them, and like there's people who like they want to act like they're doing good.
It's really no surprise that the places that enable this lifestyle end up with more of these people. I mean, that's like, that should be evidence enough to not tolerate them, because places that don't tolerate it don't have the problem.
Right.
So it just goes to show that, like, if you crack down on this type of thing and deter it, then fewer of these people will choose that lifestyle. Because, I mean, most people live a life, like, being pushed one way or another, like, whether it's, you know, societal rules or whatever. And basically, if you apply enough pressure as a society against this type of behavior, then people won't gravitate towards it in the same way. Like, you'll still have people who want to rebel and they want to do whatever, or they, you know, all they care about. Like, you know, one of the people who showed up at this meeting was like, I think I should just be allowed to stay on the street and do drugs. Like, that's all I want to do until I die. And it's like, okay, that guy, I mean, say what you will about him, but he's really expressing the sentiment of most of these people. Like, they just want to live on the street and do drugs until they die. And
Correct.
So either we have to sit around and watch them do that, or we don't. So, you know,
Yeah,
the choice seems obvious to me.
But yeah, that's the person who, I mean, I know people right now who, like, live in their car, and whether they have a job or not, and I've known people who maybe have a job and live in their car, but I'm not considering them like a homeless person. You know, like,
Yeah, they're not a bum. Like,
they're not
that's
a bum.
Yeah.
If they have a, you know, like, they're trying, you know, to do some, you know, if it's the people who, like, exactly, it's the homeless problem is a drug problem, you know. I think maybe first and foremost, people need to look at it like that, because it's drug addicts. Whenever you're looking at, you know, if these people had never smoked weed or something in their life, like, they wouldn't be in these scenes, like these, like, where you see, like, the tent cities and stuff like that, or you see, like, the wilderness hideouts and things like that these people will construct. Like, they'll suddenly get really industrious at making these, like, like, little cities, and, you know, it's kind of wild, but it just looks like a decay, like a cancer on the city, you know. I was shocked. I hadn't been to California in years, and then when I went back there, I was blown away by some of the stuff you'd see, you know. Not just, like, I mean, at Venice Beach, but just everywhere, like, everywhere.
Yeah, I think the drugs are a huge factor in it. You know, and then I think, you know, the drugs are definitely, the drugs are why people get into it. And I think one of the reasons that people don't get out of it is because of all of these bleeding heart people who want to sympathize with them or whatever, because these people aren't helping. Like, you know, if you have a kid, you know, and the kid is doing something bad, to not tell them that, like, that's bad, and then even worse, to say, oh, I feel so sorry for you because you're doing something bad. You know, like, if, you know what I mean? Like, you can't, you wouldn't say that is a profitable instruction for that child, to just say, oh, well, you're engaging in terrible behavior. I feel so bad for you. Maybe if I get you some more resources, maybe I can get you some books on how to behave. You know what I mean? It would be like giving a 3-year-old a book on, like, how he's supposed to behave and expecting him to follow it. There's just no way it's going to happen. There's got to be some instruction there. And so all the people who are like, oh, you know, I saw this guy and he told me he was so hungry. He had only eaten once that day. And I'm like, people live like that all the time on purpose. Like, if you're eating, like, okay, if you're a bum and you're trying to garner, like, tell me or tell whoever, like, you haven't eaten in, like, 5 days. Because if you tell me, oh, I only ate, you know, an all-star breakfast today. That's all I've had. I'm so hungry. You know what? I'm like, dude, come on. Like, that's not even, even if that were true, I wouldn't feel bad for you. You know, you ate one meal. People live like that all the time with no problem, and people do it on purpose. So anyway, that and they'll be like, you know, I've heard people say, like, you know, they have to to keep their stuff, out there, it's just like, if you leave your stuff out in the open, then that just belongs to anybody, so they have to bury it. And I'm just like, this is such a joke. Like, you don't see homeless people walking around with shovels digging up their, you don't see big mounds of freshly dug stuff all over the city. These people they're not out here like, trying to survive in a jungle. Like, they're, and yeah, I'm sure that if they leave their stuff out, some other homeless person will take it. It's like, because they don't have any concept of property or, that's mine or yours, or I should respect that person or whatever. Like, you know what I mean? And so it's like, you wouldn't have to worry about that if you hadn't have chosen this in the first. You wouldn't have to worry about your stuff getting, stolen if you didn't choose this in the first place. And then, the same people are like, well, we got to get them, shampoo and razors and all. And I'm just like, that to me is like one of the most annoying things. It's like, oh yeah, we need to donate sleeping bags and, shampoo and soap. And I'm like, okay, like, how is it helping? You're really going to like tell me with a straight face that like going and giving a homeless person a brand new sleeping bag, they're going to be like, you know what? I gotta change. I can't, this sleeping bag right here, it's proven to me that I have to change. I can't sleep in this. You're too kind, and I can't do it. I need to go and live somewhere. But no, it doesn't work like that.
They got to be looking at people who give them the stuff just like, sucker, like, they're not like, thank you, kind sir. Thank you for the sleeping bag, I'd been...
Oh, all right, you're coming back slowly.
Oh, no. I got you?
Now you're back.
Okay. But yeah, they got to be just looking at these people like the biggest suckers, giving them all this stuff.
Yeah, every one of them's got some horrible sob story. And,
yeah.
They're really good manipulators. You got to give them that. They can manipulate someone really, really, really well.
That's the territory of the drug addict. They manipulate. So they're thinking about getting more drugs. But yeah. I actually have seen homeless people bury stuff in Hawaii, but it would be like stolen type stuff. Because I was working for Steve Case, who, like, the AOL guy, and but I'd catch homeless people on this property all the time, so it was like my job to get rid of them. And but I found stuff like that because it's a huge property. He's like the biggest private landowner. And like you'd find people like camping out there, and there's all this property all over. So you have to like there's different resources that it is true to get rid of these people. You put resources, you allocate resources into the area, and you can get rid of them.
Yeah,
you can push them out. You're pushing the problem somewhere else. But I've dug up, I've found like their encampments, and they would have stuff like hip loads of like stolen type stuff, and even like they would have like all this gear that they would use, and like it would be like marked with like the valet from like it like clearly belonged to like the Hyatt resort like down the way, and like there would be like markings of all this stuff, like and just tons of tools. Obviously they're not getting the stuff from Home Depot, like power tools, and because they're just ripping people off all over the island. And then yeah, when you get enough stolen goods, you bury your loot. And but I've uncovered this stuff, and like I would have to you can hardly get people to even take this from these people. Like they'll steal it from each other, but like I was a confiscator and a throwawayer. But like the police will just give clearly stolen stuff, like, right, they just like treat these people with the utmost respect. And it's like almost infuriating. In fact, it is infuriating, just the way the police would just treat these people, like, they're like the biggest protectors of these like lawless people.
Yeah.
Because if anyone took the law into their own hands, they'd have a problem with the police. But the police will give these people very little issues.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't really get that. I don't really understand why. I mean, I get it in the sense of like, it's hard if you are like a normal person to like not have some degree of pity on someone who's just living out in the elements. You know, you see them on the side of the road and they're all, you know, shaggy and, you know, clearly like you can look at a person like that and say like, well, that's not a good life. You know what I mean? And so most people will just say, I want people to have better lives, and so I feel sorry for this person who doesn't. And I mean, they do prey on that, absolutely. Like, that's how they, you know, if it wasn't for that, they would just die, because no one would help them. And so, like, but that's kind of the, you know, that's kind of the scummy part about it, is that they're preying on really people's instinct to do right by their fellow man, and it's nothing but a sham to, in fact, make their lives worse. Like, no one has taken that dollar off the, you know, from your hand standing at the street corner, and then, you know, put it up in their, you know, business that they opened as like, this is the dollar that changed my life. You know, I started my business with this dollar that a guy in a white
kind man gave this to me. Yeah.
yeah. No, I mean, they're taking that dollar and thinking like, how many drugs can this dollar buy me? Or, you know, maybe, you know, I don't know. It's just like, how can they prey on these people to get what they want? And, you know, that's the part about them, like, more than anything, that like makes you a scumbag. At least if you could be somewhat honest about it and say like, oh, I just want to get high and die, then it's like, okay, well, you know, at least in that case, you're not really invoking sympathy from someone. And it would be easy. It would be really easy if every homeless person, every bum came and just told the public, all I want to do is just get high until I die. It would be so easy. People would be so accepting of the idea of like, okay, we'll just buy you a bus ticket to Mexico, and then you can do that. People would say, okay, absolutely. If that's what you want to do, then all right, here's you a ticket to Mexico, and you just go do that, and I'm just not going to worry about it. And instead of you being dead on the street corner, I'm just going to get to walk on that street corner. I'm not going to have to smell piss every time I walk through a parking garage. You know what I mean? People would totally go for that if these people were just honest. But I mean, that's they're not going to be honest. But.
I don't know because then the bums will have they'll have like the sign where it's like, you know, like, who am I kidding? I'm just gonna buy a beer, so, you know, and people will be like, at least he's honest, you know, give him $1, you know, like, I'll give this guy $5. At least he's, you know, at least.
I think the beer thing works for people because so many people just drink all the time, and they're just like, oh, he's just like me. He just wants to kick back and drink a beer. You know what I mean? That's like the way they're like, to them. I don't think it's more about like, I mean, yeah, you will hear like, oh, at least he's honest, but you know, they relate to it in the sense of like, oh man, after a hard day of panhandling, all I would want is to kick up in my ripped up lazy boy that's been crapped on, and you know, drink this Colt 45. That's what I would want.
Yeah, can't blame a guy for that, you know.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, I mean, it's the bleeding heart aspect gets everybody. You know, everyone will be like, I mean, not everybody. You know, not me. I'm like, this won't work on Randall, but like, it blows me away by, you know, it's true. They're taking advantage of I mean, the good graces of people. They're taking advantage of the good qualities of people to like help people to be good, to be nice. And they're making it a huge joke, you know. It's like, that's why you need to. I mean, I've seen it. I've seen people too. I've known people who will just they'll give money to any homeless people, or at least years ago they would. Even if people would say, you know, these people are probably scammers, they'd just figure, you know, just at least give them something, you know. The Bible says give, you know, people, you know, give them something, you know. Over the years, I've known people like that.
Yeah, yeah.
And I just don't think it's correct, you know. Because what you're dealing with isn't... I
definitely don't think it's the best use of, like, while I can, in a lot of ways, like, appreciate these, you know, and it is popular among churches to say, you know, we need to help the homeless people or whatever, you know, and I've talked to homeless people a bunch of times, like out soul winning, you know, they're just standing on the street, so you can just walk up and talk to them. I mean, most of the time, it's a total waste of time because they're either like too drunk to understand what you're saying, or they're just like out of their minds anyway. So, you know, I think in general, talking to them is a waste of time. You know, I won't say that in every case it is, but in most cases, you know, 99% of cases, you could be doing something more productive. But, you know, I appreciate the heart that these people have, and they want to help someone, and it is like it's just an easy, visible target to pick of like, here's a group of people who's obviously worse off than, you know, other people that I can see and maybe interact with on a daily basis, and so it's just a really easy, low-hanging target to say, I want to help these people. It's almost like the laziest thing you could do, because to help a homeless person, you know, like even in their minds of like, you can give them something really cheap. It's like taking a kid to the dollar store. It's just like a really lazy way to like earn points, because anything you give them at the dollar store, like a kid doesn't know that the value of that is basically non-existent. They just think, oh, cool, a toy or whatever. And so the same thing is kind of true. Like, these people don't have to do hardly anything. Like, they can just say, oh, I, you know, made soup at a soup kitchen, or I donated this can of soup that was nearly expired from my pantry or whatever, and they feel good about it because it's, you know, well, that person had nothing, so this is better than the nothing. You know what I mean? And so that like, it's really just like a really, I mean, while I can appreciate, like, you know, they want to help these people, I think that they go about it like the total wrong. I mean, I think that it's just a fruitless endeavor. Like, how many people have been drug addicted bums that are helped because they got a can of soup, or because, you know, and, you know, people come up with all kinds of anecdotal stories of, oh, I knew this guy and he was living on the street, and then, you know, now he's a multi-millionaire, sort of like people who are like, oh, well, you know, Einstein failed all of his math classes, so just because you're a retard, you know, you could be a great scientist one day, or what, you know, stuff like that. But, you know, to the effect of these bums, and I don't really have a lot of patience for these people, but I digress.
I've known people like that who were like homeless bums, like who, but they'll say, you know, the time, what, you know, they're living like this degenerate lifestyle, like they want to do drugs, they want to, you know, maybe they didn't try to end up just homeless, but they, you know, they were just,
they made choices that led to it.
Yeah, right. They burnt the bridges, they partied it up, and they ended up homeless, and maybe spent years doing that as well. And each of these times they'll say, you know, basically the gig was up. You know, at some point, they, you know, for them it was anyway. Like there's some kind of reckoning where it just became too hard for them. You know, and it wasn't necessarily that they just wised up, or, you know, they got a big break in something. It was like it just became too hard for them to just, you know, they just gave up really living that lifestyle, you know. And then they, you know, put on, you know, then it's like you call up the person who you burned bridges with, and then you get, you know, you
well, I mean, and that
you go through that whole process as well, you know, like you know what I mean. But yeah,
and that whole, like, that just proves even more so that it's got to be like their decision. Like you can't just throw money at these people or
No.
programs at these people or whatever and expect them to go like, oh, I'm so ashamed to be receiving all of this, goodwill from people that I just need to change my ways. You know what I mean? Like they have to, hit the proverbial rock bottom or like just die first. Like it's really a race, like one of those two things.
It's usually something like the opposite. Like someone who was giving them money stopped.
Yeah, yeah.
and then,
Right, yeah.
and then what do you do? Then you got to clean up. You got to give up all that. It just seems like such a phenomenon, like just this how this stuff is growing and how people like it's like who are these people like they're like because there weren't so many homeless people before, and it's not like homeless people, they're recruiters, they're not reproducing. Like you know what I mean, like you have to join homelessness. You don't. Every now and then I'll see weird stuff. Like there is a woman who's always like begging, and it's like she'll have a sign that says like homeless with kids, and I'm just like, what? Like, you can't do that. Like someone like I'm like I don't know how it all works, but I'm like no one's gonna step in and question that. Like like I'm like what?
Yeah. No CPS officer has driven by you in history ever.
Right. I'm sure it's got to be something like, they do, and then they're like, oh, no, I'm just kidding, like I have a home.
Yeah, or like, oh, my kids are living with my parents, or, something like that.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, okay, you have 2 kids, and you're going to use that against people, but, your kids are, living with their grandma or whatever.
I've seen it, or the kids are on the street. I've seen it a few times where the kids are, there are kids with the homeless people. Like you do see that sometimes. I hope they're not there for long. I trust that they're no. Sometimes you see it, but usually homeless people don't have kids with them. You can't do that. Like, but
yeah.
I've seen a few. I've seen like, I've seen like clearly like refugee, like Middle Eastern immigrant. Like just a few months ago, I seen this where. And like it was like they had a sign and it was like refugees and they had their kids with them, and so I'm like, what? You can't do, like how'd you get here? Like what are you doing?
Well, these are the same people who will like try to cross like a giant swath of ocean in a canoe with their kid and then be like, nobody came to rescue me. It's like, okay, well, you're just an idiot. Like you're like,
like you can't do that.
Or like those pictures you always see of the Mexicans like trying to. It'll be like 11 Mexicans drown with their kids while trying to cross the Rio Grande in a storm, and it's like, well, nobody made them do that. Like nobody forced them to. It's not like they're being controlled by like Oregon Trail video game guy who's making them ford the river. Like they just said, oh, I'm just going to cross this river, storm or not, consequences or not, whatever.
Right. Yeah. You see that you're just like, this seems like really bad parenting. Like, like. Yeah. Unbelievable. Oh man. Did you see that plane crash with the? This is off topic, but with the, I saw this video of like it was like the gender reveal. And it was like the plane, and there.
I didn't see the video, but I saw the overall story.
Unreal, yeah.
Yeah.
My wife showed me that it was like they're in like Mexico, and this pilot just flies and just crashes. It's unbelievable. That's a bit off topic, but I was, it was parenting.
Yeah, it's in the same vein of just people just being total morons.
Yeah. There's plenty of that. And then just then the anarchic nature of some of these, like, I don't know what's going on there in Mexico, but it's true. I mean, they should be accepting our homeless people. You know, they're just sending all these people our way. You know.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I think at minimum we should trade. Like, if we're gonna get, someone who not even Mexico wants, then, why can't they get someone that we don't want?
Yeah.
I mean, I think too, like, I really do think this would be like a really good negotiating tactic. Like, take all of like the scumbag gang member killers, whatever, and just tell Mexico, hey, if you don't stop these people from crossing the border, like, for every one of them that crosses, we're going to send, one drug addicted bum and one violent criminal from jail, and we're going to take them across the border, and we're just going to airdrop them in, and they're going to be your problem. And so if you don't want your country, like, I mean, your country's already being overrun with violent criminals, but, like, we're just going to make that problem worse for you. In the same ways that, like, your people make our problems worse, like, we're going to make your problems worse until you can fix this problem for us. That way, at least we're not netting, like, at least the net is zero at the end of the day. Like, at least then if someone wants to say, oh, we have 11 million illegal immigrants, well, at least you could say, yeah, but we sent 11 million people to Mexico that we didn't want. So, at least the net would be zero in that scenario. Instead of today, where it's just plus, 10 billion or whatever it is.
As long as they don't cross again, but that's the, because they would, yeah. It's a tricky one. If only we had something like Australia, where, I don't know, it really makes sense what the Brits did with Australia, looking back,
Yeah.
I mean, that's an inspirational story too. They really made something out of that place, didn't they? I like Australia. Actually, but you know what? There's a lot more of Australia too. I don't know. I'm just spitballing now. But it's true. You have to make like a colony to put these people in. I don't know. I'm just kind of brainstorming now.
You would have to come up with some level of enforcement that didn't let them come back. But, like, right. I do think most of these people wouldn't want to come back, to be honest. Because, right. If you take a violent, gang member murderer out of prison and you say, look, I'm going to set you free in a different country. Just don't come back. And you're going to put them in basically the same type of environment that they want to be in, like with gangs and crime and violence and whatever. Like, what is there to motivate them to leave? Like, either they're going to get there and they're going to pick a side, one cartel or the, whatever. They're going to pick a side and they're going to be useful to them, or they're going to get killed by someone, in which case, problem solved then, or, the Mexican government will kill them. So, like, either way, I don't think they're going to make a beeline for the border, because that is a better environment. It's more like what they want. And the same thing with the homeless person. Like, if you take a homeless person out of, the Northeast or the Midwest, where every winter they've got to, sleep in 3 sleeping bags outside and whatever. If you take them and drop them in Mexico, where they don't have to worry about any of that, and their drugs are cheaper, and all that stuff, like, I don't really see them, like, spending money that they could be buying drugs with to, like, come back to the U.S. Like, it's not a free thing. So I kind of think that in a lot, at least in theory, I think it's I think the problem solves itself. I mean, again, if I were in a level of power where I could actually enforce this, then, obviously I could just have the military shoot anyone who crosses the border.
Right.
But, again, I'm getting ahead of myself.
Yeah.
One plan at a time.
Human rights violations aside, the that is I mean, that is the thing where you send the homeless people to Mexico, and they're, you know, they might be thinking, you know, yeah, they're like, this is, you know, they're like, I hadn't really thought about it, you know, but yeah, you know, this is pretty nice. You know, this is kind of what this is kind of like what I'm about, you know, this is like my style, you know, like, yeah, I hadn't thought about it, but thank you. You know, I think they might, you know, they just weren't enterprising.
Maybe the next time, like if I'm out and I see a homeless person, like maybe I'll ask them.
Just
like,
ask them, yeah.
Yeah, like how would you feel if like you could just live your life like you live it now, just in Mexico?
Yeah.
I wonder what they would say.
I mean,
I'll have to do some polling.
You figure because it might be a step up for these people. I mean, probably a lot of. Because you figure maybe if there's people who are homeless in America and they can't make it in America, everything's too expensive, you know, they just can't, you know, they try their, you know, but maybe in Guatemala they'd be a superstar.
Yeah,
I don't know, you know, like maybe they'd be like it's like you the man, like everyone's just like, like, you don't know, like maybe they're like yeah, I don't know, it could be.
At minimum, it is a fresh start. So you go, you have your fresh start,
right.
and you get to pick what you want to do with it.
It is a fresh start. Yeah. Everyone could, you know, I mean, they could use that, you know, couldn't they use that?
Yeah. Maybe that's how it would have to be billed. It's like the Fresh Start Act. It's where we just send all the bums to Mexico.
Right. I mean, it's true. I mean, you have to do something with this problem. Like it has to be done because you see this as growing. This isn't correct, right? I mein, like I just don't think like you should have all this that we do, you know. So things need to be made to like disincentivize the homeless, you know. So we have to deal with our current homeless, but also to keep people from getting into that lifestyle in the future. So I mean, certain radical solutions have to be kind of have to be done.
Yeah, and I don't even like. I mean, we live in a world today where, you know, radical is not even really that radical. You know, like I think that the way, you know, people talk about, oh, the war on drugs failed or whatever. And to me, I think that it's, you know, my philosophy on this has kind of evolved over time, but, you know, basically, I think that, like, if you're in a war with someone, and this kind of applies generally, but if you're in, like, a war with someone or with a nation or with even an idea, whatever, like, your goal if your goal is anything less than to like genocide your enemy, then I think that you're doing a disservice to whoever it is that you're fighting for. And so I think this is like the same case with like the war on drugs. Like the reason that it's not effective or hasn't been as effective as it could be is because the goal isn't to like basically genocide all these people who are making drugs or pushing drugs or even using drugs. Like the goal is just like, well, you know, if we catch someone doing it, well, you know, that's kind of bad or whatever. Like there's nothing that you like to call it a war. I think is to way overstate what it really is. It's really just making some laws and barely enforcing them. That's not really a war, you know. So I think you know, okay, in terms of a war, has it been effective? Like, absolutely not. And so I think that I would say, like, just make it a real war. Just say, if you deal drugs, you're going to die. If you, like, I would say, if you do drugs today, then, like, basically, you're gonna get one chance. You're going to get one chance to get clean. If you test, you know, we're going to drug test you every day. And if you test positive for drugs, like, we're just gonna kill you or send you to Mexico or whatever. Like, I mean, because it has to happen. Like these people, like that's the only thing. They're not gonna stop for anything less than their own lives. That's really gonna be the only thing that motivates them enough to say, okay, I'm really gonna quit. And if someone isn't motivated by that, then what can you do for them? Like, what else could you do for them?
Yeah. it gets to be a sticky situation there, though. Just in however many people are already involved in some point. I mean, the thing about the war on drugs or so is however many people got. I don't know. It just seemed like it put society, it oriented people in a bad, because there's people who were doing drugs who maybe got pitted against the government, who didn't need, like, I don't really care if someone does this, if someone drinks or does drugs or something. If they just do their life, you know, they just live their life and they're not like some bum or something, you know, like I don't care. I don't know if you necessarily could stamp out drugs completely, you know, like.
Well, I mean, it obviously, like, it depends on the drug, but I don't know. I still think that, like, potheads should get the right. No. Anyway, but, like, I agree. I agree. Like, the functional people are less of a priority than the bums. The people who obviously are not.
I could care less. Yeah, like, I mean, I don't. It is tricky though. I'm not too sure like where I really stand on certain things now, because they're like legalizing certain drugs, and it's not necessarily making things better. You know, like no. I don't know, like it's a hard one. Like it's so it's like, what do you do? You know, I don't know. Like, do you
just kill the people who use them?
You That's just kill everyone who I don't know. It just.
I mean, it would. I mean, okay. Like, maybe it's radical, but it would solve the problem.
It could. It just, you can't. There's however many people who won't get on board. You know, like, just as a society.
I mean, yeah. I mean, is it a practical solution that you'll get everybody to buy into? Like, no, it's not. But hypothetically, if you were to do it, would it solve the problem? And yeah, it would. If you like, again, hypothetically, if you could enact this plan and execute it, then it would work. So I'm just saying, but I mean, I do. At some point, like, you've got to be practical, but I also think that in something like this, like, it's something that's been compromised on over and over and over and over again, and it's so hard to, like, gain ground back the other way. I mean, you see the same thing with, like, you know, all the gay rights and stuff like that. It wasn't like this problem developed overnight. It was a series of, compromise after compromise after compromise that led to where we are today. And any step back is viewed as extreme. And so, to solve either problem, you do have to enact, like, rather extreme measures, because there's no way to, generation after generation, gain ground the opposite way, because people will begin compromising again as soon as you have a new generation of people who say, well, that's not that bad, or that doesn't affect me, or whatever. Like, you're gonna develop people over time who don't care enough about the like the seeds of these problems, and then it's gonna grow into, like, a huge mess of weeds that is impossible to deal with. And, like, with our, I'm not saying any of this would ever actually happen, or definitely not with our current government. Like, you couldn't push a law through Congress that says that we're going to take all the bums and take them to Mexico. You know what I mean?
Sure.
It just wouldn't happen. You would need radical changes in every facet of how we live today to do any of this. So, in my mind, all of this is hypothetical, and it's really just about, what would the ideal solution look like? And I'm kind of allowed to be an idealist because I don't actually have any way to enact a practical plan. So, if I did, then I may have to approach it a little differently. But I actually do think that the deporting to Mexico, I think there's a large contingent of people I could get on board with that, given the right messaging.
Sure. I mean, there's a certain degree of facetiousness with these kind of ideas, but I think, I mean, like, in a way, I'm serious about these things. Like, it's like to just imagine what we could do, you know, like, there's something to be said. Like, it's like we can do something with these issues, you know, and frankly, we have to at a certain point, we have to, you know, not necessarily that we will tomorrow, because obviously, like, we won't, but somebody's going to have to clean up these problems, you know, some like that come out. Certainly, the homeless one, and like we said, that's definitely tied with any number of, like, definitely drugs. But yeah, I mean, where to
I just think whoever that is, or, you know, maybe it's not a who, maybe it's a group of people, whatever. Whoever it is that can start moving in that direction. You know, the danger there is that they take their foot off the pedal and they say, well, I've accomplished enough. Like, that problem is solved, and so we're just gonna lay off and let things be for a while, let things cool down, you know. So I think that whoever that is needs to take the next step, because I do think that if you were able to do this and you were able to get enough people behind it, and, you know, you were to round up these people and send them to Mexico, I think that people, even who were initially against it, would flip to your side pretty quickly once they see what their life could be like without this blight. And that goes, I mean, and that goes for a lot. Like, imagine, you know, there are people who, you know, they just think that when you walk around New York City or any big city, that it just smells like piss all the time. That you see these people on the street that you avoid. You cross the street, like, if you know, if you walk around New York City, there's, like, crazy people who will just walk up to you and start screaming all the time. There are people who are laying on the side of the street, you know, with a trash bag. You know, like, there are things like this that people just accept as, like, a part of life. And if you could show them a different way, that their life didn't have to be like that. It didn't have to be crazy people screaming at you. It didn't have to smell terrible whenever you went outside. You know, if you are in a parking garage, like, it doesn't have to smell like somebody just took a piss over in the corner. You know what I mean? You don't have to, you know, people in Portland, like, if you go to the park, you don't have to step over needles whenever you walk around downtown. You know what I mean? If you could show them that, like, if you could just get rid of the problem and them not even know about it, like, just, you know, do this thing like Black Ops overnight, just kidnap these people and, like, airdrop them into Mexico, and everybody just wakes up the next day and thinks, oh, I wonder what happened to all the bums. They're all, you know, I don't see any of them anymore. People would just say, oh, this is great. I don't know what happened, but it's great. And they would be on board. So, you know, I think that once you have that momentum, again, whoever it is, you know, maybe not even in my lifetime, but, like, whoever it is needs to continue pressing in that direction while they have the momentum behind them, and just say, like, look, we knocked that one out of the park. Let's tackle the next problem. And, you know, it's going to work just like the last one did. And people will say, okay, you know what? My life is better now. It's sort of like how, you know, it was like, you know, say what you want to about Trump and whoever, but, like, a lot of people's lives were better when he was president because things were cheaper. Cost of living was like, whatever you want to say. And whether you want to credit it to him or not, I think it's irrelevant. But people look at that leader and they say, my life was better under him. So I don't like this. I don't like Brandon because I didn't have to pay as much at the grocery store. And again, you can argue all day about who's responsible for that, but it doesn't matter, because once someone gets that momentum behind them, and once people attribute accomplishments to someone, then you can build on that and keep going forward rather than just saying, oh, well, I did enough. I'm good.
I mean, I think Trump is a good example of that. And I also Obama, you know, because I think these are guys who almost like getting elected was the revolution, or something, you know, like, was their once they got in, they weren't
Right.
so dynamic really in any way. But yeah, certain ideas that they had were like big ideas. Obama had big ideas too. Like when he showed up, there was a lot that he said he was going to do and things that was exciting to people, and he doesn't do, like with Trump it's like the wall,
Yeah.
it's like these ideas are like or he was saying outlandish stuff like banning Muslim immigration, I mean, which when he said that, like it just didn't seem realistic to me even at the time, like because even I mean, this is like a constitutional issue, or like how realistic is that? It wasn't. It turned out to be not that realistic, but it's like throwing stuff on the table. And yeah, I think you're right. If you have a certain the idea, if you want to carry this kind of momentum, you maybe want to have a heavier idea in your head than a lighter. So you're
and I mean
through the gates with.
Even the idea, like with the wall, like. People who if George Bush would have said, "Oh, we're going to build a wall," people would say to George Bush, "Oh, that's never going to work." But as soon like Trump's out here telling people he's going to build a wall, and there's literally people like yelling at his rallies, like, "Build the wall, build the," you know what I mean? And so like these people wanted a wall. Like look at all these people who wanted a wall. Like the fact that it didn't get done is like criminal because it's what the people wanted. Like people wanted the wall. And so
people want these big ideas,
Yeah.
I think that's why it's not true when people act like the people want less radical, they want more cuck type policies. They want more moderate. They want a more. That's not necessarily true in some way. People want big ideas. People want big, big stuff. People would like to see big things happen, and But yeah, I think I'd say there's a lot of people who've seen the homeless just ruin their lives, and like in downtown Mesa, when they put the rail in, and as much as people want like the trains and the walkables, you didn't know.
Yeah,
you don't. It's better just drive your car, because if you go down there, it's all homeless. You go down to Pioneer Park and some of the stuff, and it's just crackheads everywhere.
Yeah.
And like any business owners, and you talk to the business people, there's a lot of people moving out with their business from the downtown area because the rail is bringing all these they built this and it's bringing homeless. They're just getting they're coming down, and people have horror stories about dealing with this stuff every day. This guy told me he was complaining about this stuff, and he said that he went to open up his shop, and there's like these big archways in front of his doors. And he said he went to open up his shop one morning at like 6 a.m. He says there's two homeless guys sodomizing each other in the doorway of his business. Like at 6 a.m., like he said, it's the most horrifying thing he'd ever seen in his life. But like he didn't know what to do. You just get out of there,
Yeah.
People don't know what to do. They just know that they don't feel like they should have to deal with this stuff,
Yeah.
And I mean, I've talked to people around here who are it's really ruined things for them, And it's not even that bad. It's not even that bad where I live compared to other places.
Yeah. I do think that like if there was like an organizational power that could like push some of this stuff, then like I do think it would be really easy. Like if I were elected mayor of Manchester, New Hampshire, and all I did was made it a priority, just like gathered up homeless people, put them on a bus, sent them to wherever. It doesn't matter. Like I would be everyone's favorite mayor in just a matter of weeks because they wouldn't have to deal with these problems anymore. Like they wouldn't care whatever else I did. The thing that they would remember would be like, I don't see this like roving pack of homeless people setting up camps anymore. Like you just don't see that anymore. People would. That's what people would remember, and so I think that there's I personally think it's an effective idea because it's provable. Like you can prove it out on a small scale. You can do it in one city, and people in that city will respond to it regardless of whatever else they think about you. Like they can say, my life was measurably better after this happened. And like I said, they don't even really have to know. Like I don't think that you have to go and hold a public forum and say this is what's going to happen. I think you just quietly round these people up, put them on a bus, and say, basically, how far does this bus go? That's how far I want these people to go. And it doesn't matter where they end up, again, because like you said before,
Gone.
like you said before, like ultimately you're just transferring the problem somewhere else. But again, if I were mayor, then my responsibility wouldn't be to wherever the people wherever they end up. Yeah, it would be the people in my city. So I would send them away to, as far as I could send them. And people, I think people would respond to that because it's a visible thing that, it's tangible. You can say, last year there were all these homeless people everywhere, and there were, people shooting up on my doorstep or whatever. I saw 2 homeless guys sodomizing themselves in front of my business. You just don't see that anymore. Like people would like that, I think.
Yeah. That was a rumor in Kauai that Mayor Carvalho, who played on the Miami Dolphins, but he's a good guy, but he was a good mayor. But the rumor was that he was giving plane tickets out to the homeless to send them back to the mainland. But people really thought that this was going on, and you would hear actually for years, and people thought it was a good program. I didn't think, can you believe, that what tax dollars to the home? People were just like, money well spent. But it wasn't true though. But a lot of people thought it was true. And there might have even been some truth to it. There might have even been a few,
a couple of occurrences.
Yeah, the local government denied it, but they, who knows? They might have, arranged transportation for a few of the, you don't know.
Yeah.
But either way, people thought that would be a good idea. So, everyone wants these people gone, basically. But but on the other hand, you'll hear people, oh man, there's always the bleeding heart voices that you have to treat these people. Oh, they're poor, what does Jesus say?
Yeah, you just have to tell it you just have to talk to them like you were putting their dog down. Like, okay, look, we're gonna take all these homeless, we're gonna send them to a nice farm, and they're just gonna go on that farm, and they're just gonna live there. It's just gonna be better for them to just go live on that nice farm where they can run around and be free, and it's just gonna be better. Like like what you would tell a kid when the dog died.
Yeah. So is this what you're really gonna do with the home? Wait a minute. No. They went to a nice place.
Yeah,
I don't know.
They did go to a nice place. Have you ever heard of Cancun? They say it's nice there.
They have nice beaches in Mexico. They have tons of nice stuff. I was in Mexico just a few months ago, and the landscape of it is nice, But beyond that, it's anarchic, It's a lawless country, in my opinion.
That's why it's perfect.
Yeah, that's the kind of life that they want to live. You don't. In a place like that, I don't consider you to have you don't have rights and stuff, because it's just corruption, I consider it just a natural dictatorship, most of these countries are. That's what they're like,
Yeah.
It's just about who has the resources to be the strong man and to keep things in line, and then everything is just kind of corruption and greasing palms, and you don't have rights. You know what I mean? This is, I think, would be a more appropriate place for people who just abuse and make a joke out of this. the whole civilization that's been
Yeah.
been built for them to just like wipe their ass with is their. Yeah, 'cause that's what I mean. Like I'm not trying to be like mean, but like I don't. They're just homeless. Some people act like they're like a protected class of people or something. They're not. Like they're not the poor. Like I say, it's more like hoboism, where they're like they're voluntary bums, and but there is something like deeply like wrong about it. Like I think that our society is like producing these people is like it's just another like I'm always just thinking like where is this coming from? Like how do like how are we producing so many people? Like it's like we have this like waste it's very strange. And then it's like what kept this from happening before? I don't know. But I don't think, like you said, you can't necessarily just go back to what we were doing before. You need a radical solution. Like you said, you can't just dial it back. You need someone has to clean up the mess, and I don't know when, but someone will have to do it. People say no one will ever have to do it. Someone will have to do it. Like it's a big problem.
Yeah, I mean, either someone will do it, or will just become like Mexico or any of these other countries.
Right. It'll just be this decay of criminality.
Yeah.
And already there's more just roving street gangs and stuff like that you see in just this kind of criminality. I mean, it's anarchy, and you see this stuff in dictatorships and things too, where there's a rise of these kind of street gangs and criminals, and just depending on the circumstance. But I mean, it's a serious problem. It's just to the point where you can't even address this problem without you just seem like you're talking crazy or something. But in a way, it's not crazy.
I think I was actually kind of surprised because the very first time that I talked about this semi-publicly was I'd mentioned the church setting before, and a lot of people, when I brought it up of just like what if we just deported these people to Mexico, a lot of people kind of laughed about it at first, but then I had a lot of people coming up to me afterwards like, that's actually a pretty good idea, and I was like, yeah, I mean, it wasn't a joke when I said it. I mean, it is kind of funny when you think about it. I mean, I think it's funny, but it's not a joke. So I think that I think that a lot of the problem that we have is that people are like too even afraid to talk about any sort of thing that might be viewed as radical, but the more that you can talk about it, the more people will say, like, you know what, that's actually not a bad idea. Or like, oh, someone else actually thinks that. That means it's okay for me to think it. You know what I mean? Like, that's how all this, that's like why I think that like Reddit is a source of terrible evil in our society, because it takes everything that's bad and gives people the view that it's normal. Like before, you would have some freak who people would say, like, quit being a freak. And they would say, you know what, you're right, I'm kind of a freak, I shouldn't be like that. But now they can go on Reddit and say, like, I'm a freak. And then everybody else will say, good for you, be more of a freak. And then that's what they'll do. But the opposite also works. Like, you can peer pressure people the other way and say, when someone talks to you about homeless people or whatever, instead of just like nodding your head and saying, yeah, whatever, like biting your tongue because you think they're gonna, go like all bleeding hard on you and get mad, like you can just say like, maybe we should just send them to Mexico. And, with the slow, introduction of these ideas, people will come around to it, I think. That's maybe I have too much faith in people, but I tend to think that you can most people have the views that they have because they've been pressured into it one way or another, whether they know it. Most people don't really think for themselves. They just repeat what they hear or the people who are around them, what they say. And so we can do the same thing, just in reverse. Just say, hey, peer pressure people into buying into this. Ultimately that's going to be more effective than like giving them all the facts and logic and saying, make up your own mind about it.
Yeah, and we're not saying you have to, like, maybe it's a fantastical idea that we're going to do these deportations, but to Mexico, that we won't really get the Mexican government to accept all these homeless, that we won't be able to pull it off. Maybe that's, maybe it's, but I think it's worth it to yeah, I think you're right. People need to come up with some solutions. So it's better to think of the solutions. Like, personally, I like to come up with. I like to think of how we can, because people just act like there's people coming into the country, But when you say, you say, well, you can get rid of them, maybe in the future.
Yeah.
It's crazy, But why is that a crazier thing to say than to just complain about, like,
yeah,
these people coming in and
yeah, it reminds me. It reminds me. It reminds me of when Trump was campaigning in 2016, and someone had asked him about whether he thinks that women who get abortion should be punished. And, like, you can tell, like, Trump, historically, obviously has not been, like, a champion of the pro-life movement or anything, but you can tell that he was kind of ignorant of, or, like, maybe new to the idea, because he was like, yeah, absolutely. And, most people are like, even within, like, the pro-life movement are like, what? No, you can't do that. Yeah, but he just took
like, no.
he just took it to the logical conclusion of, like, well, everybody in my base thinks this is murder, so obviously they would want murderers punished. You know what I mean? And so people just lost their minds over it. But I think that like you said, that it's when people want to complain and say, oh, what if the roles were reversed or whatever? They want to play games like that all the time, but they never want to actually examine what it would take to solve the problem in concrete terms. Other than just like, oh, this is a culture problem, we have to shift the culture. And it's like, well, how do you do that? And they don't have an answer there,
Yeah.
But yeah, when it comes down to like tactical solutions of how do you actually solve a problem, most people don't really have much of an interest in coming up with a real solution that would actually solve the problem.
No, and I personally think a lot of people have an interest in no problems, and no problems being solved,
Yeah.
And they have an interest in no solutions being found. They have because everything gets worse and worse. You just want to complain about. I don't want to see all this sick stuff. Like,
well, yeah, it's like if you look back at, all the Republicans who have gotten elected over complaining about what the other side does, and then, first George Bush and then Trump both, when they were elected, they both had, like, majorities in Congress and all this stuff, and still, like, nothing happened.
Right.
Temporal stuff happened where it's like, yeah, Trump loosed some regulations and, the economy improved and all that stuff. But again, like, that's kind of a temporal improvement where the next guy can just come in and undo all that. And, like, even with George Bush, it's like you had this super majority in a time when, like, people were much more open to these ideas. And so, like, you could have done something about all of this before it even happened. But, it was better or safer or more profitable or whatever the motivation was, it was better for them to just not do anything and wait until 8 years later and then complain about, how bad Obama is. And it's like, you could have prevented Obama altogether by just doing what you should have done.
being maybe more aggressive with policies. It's hard to say. I mean, you get so much pushback, and you kind of see who responds to this or that. But then again, in certain ways, Bush seemed like someone who was willing to, he didn't care as much about the pushback. It seemed like Trump, it seemed like would kind of respond more to bad press, or that would change his program. But I don't know, maybe Bush. I don't think Bush had the most, like, a lot of the things he ran on, like the pro-life stuff. He obviously didn't take it that serious. He could have done more than he did. If that was really his program. Hard to say. But I mean, you always get these. Like, I remember under Bush, like, how much just concerted hatred he even got. Like, people thought he was like Hitler. Like, it would be like, Bush is Hitler, and they got like swastikas all over Bush, and like they would be like, I mean, I went to a concert, Skinny Puppy, and there were like video screens. And about how evil Bush was and stuff, but there was like stuff on the screens that was like saying like Bush is gonna put you in concentration camps and kill you. It's like, it's like the plan's long been underway. Like NWO is like moving in to kill you. It wasn't that bad, but like, I don't know. You get people to go crazy. I don't know. It's something with our society where it's hard to get people to go along with stuff, but
yeah.
But maybe with a more aggressive program, people would. Like, you could see with Trump how initially, and with Obama, I'd say, where people get like intoxicated a little bit by like this, like a new, but then they don't become like what they thought. Like, they're not as energetic of a leader. There isn't as much change as they thought. Like. But I agree. I think that you could go further on that if you just had more. I don't know, if there was someone who came along with a really aggressive program. I think they could get further. They could implement more than they thought.
Yeah, and I think even if even if there are obstacles in your way of implementing it, you could still like get the people to back you. It's like, I don't remember. Things will leak out every now and then about, oh, Trump wanted to execute drug dealers or whatever, and I'm like, why didn't he tell everybody about that? Because, like that would have been, of course, people are going to say, oh, people who he surrounded himself with or whatever are going to say, oh, no, you can't, you can't do that. But like, if it were me and I were president and I said, you know what, why don't we just execute these guys? And everybody around me told me, oh, you can't do that, whatever. Like, as much as he used Twitter, like, why wouldn't he just go on Twitter and say, like, I want to execute drug dealers, but no one else around me wants to? Or,
right.
I want to execute pedophiles, and no one here wants to do that. Why is that? You know what I mean? Like, you could at least have the backing of the people where, you could put pressure in the right places. If senators thought, well, oh, if we don't go along with, Trump's new thing, or, if we don't go along with Randall wanting to deport the homeless people, then, I'm not going to get reelected or whatever. Then, that, because that's, ultimately that's what they want. I don't really know why a lot of them want it as bad as they do, because it seems like they don't do anything. I mean, maybe they just like just collecting the paycheck and getting the pension or whatever. It doesn't matter. But if they feel like they're going to lose that, next election, like, they will literally do anything to not lose that next election. So, he should have just gone out to the people and said, yeah, I want to execute drug dealers, I want to execute pedophiles, all this stuff. And everyone who is for that would say, yeah, I want that too. And at least you would have some way to, like, even if you couldn't pass a new law or whatever, you could at least show that it, like, wasn't it wasn't you. Like, oh, I'm pushing for these things, and no one here wants to do them. No one in Congress wants to pass a law that says that we can execute pedophiles or whatever.
Even some of his stuff, like there's one of them that was like Trump wanted to drone strike Mexico, but you know, they wouldn't let him.
Yeah.
You know, they wouldn't let him do it. Well,
Yeah.
Hold on a minute. Who didn't let him do it?
Yeah.
You know, like you could do that right now. Like, I mean, he can't, but Brandon, you know, he could do it. The president can do it at any time. You know, you could really authorize a drone strike on anyone. You could. You've got like a couple months where the president can like pretty much start a war, and then, I mean, he's gonna have trouble securing the funding after like a couple months. You know what I mean? But like, the president has a lot of power. You could act in a lot of crazy ways. But they were saying like, it's like Trump wanted to drone strike Mexico, but it was like his aides and advisors were like, they told him it wasn't a good idea, and so, you know, and so he didn't do it, you know.
Yeah.
But that's not a lot of obstacles, and I'd see a lot of it would be like his aides, people around him are like, no, you can't do. But he could have done this stuff. Like he could have done quite a bit of this stuff. Like
I mean, if I were in that position,
what is it?
If I were in that position, for better or worse, I would definitely put myself in an echo chamber.
Sure, yeah, you know, or maybe put yourself in a, you know, maybe hear the stuff out, but just you don't need to listen to it. You know, you don't need, who cares? You know, maybe because of course your dumb aides are going to give you the wimpy advice. You know, you need to be bold. You need to you need to do the and people like Biden do the reverse. I mean, like I was talking about with Afghanistan, he's pulling out of Afghanistan. His aides and stuff, people were telling him not to do that, you know? Yeah. Because he had the same, like when Trump was saying that, he said that, you know, he had all these deep state military people who were telling him not to do that, you know, you can't do it. But he listened to these people. You know, you can just be like, shut up, full steam ahead. Yeah. You can do that on pretty much anything. He could do totally illegal stuff and get away with it, you know, like if you wanted to push forward with it, you know. But he didn't have it in him. I don't think he had it in him to do some of this stuff, like, because he'd get the pushback and he wouldn't do it. Like, how much pushback did Bush get with invading Iraq? That like there weren't people around him every day like, this might be a bad idea, you know, like you can't do it, you know. I'm sure he's just like, shut up, you know, we're doing it. You know, I know it's crazy, but we're doing it. You know, it was pretty audacious, but you need some audacity like that, you know. Yeah. The audacity that, you know, the audacity of hope is what you need. But yeah, there has to be some solutions, though. I mean, yeah, definitely. I think what you want to get in people's head is the idea of like just getting, like, gone. Homeless people, gone. Yeah. You know, like, like, well, what's that look like? Just gone, you know. You know, like, I don't know. It can be done. Like you don't have to live like this. You know? Yeah. Because that's the thing. It's like, oh, well, you're mean. You're you're saying this stuff about the homeless people, but look at how many lives they ruin every day, you know. Yeah. They're they're ruining. You know, it's not even it's not the biggest problem I have. I'm not like a huge landowner where I have to deal with all this stuff. You know, like I'm like, it's a societal problem though. You know?
Yeah, and I mean, like, what the suggestion here isn't even anything mean. It's just like,
no, it's not mean.
It's like we're just moving them from one place to another. They're going to be doing the same stuff. Yeah. So, like, what's the problem? They're just not going to be doing it here.
We found a place for you, you know. Yeah, it's I
mean, maybe somewhere like you mentioned Australia. Maybe we could use like Cuba for something like that.
Haiti.
There you go, Haiti. That would be really good.
Yeah.
If anything, they could probably help Haiti. I mean, I don't think a bunch of drug addicts are going to make Haiti any worse, right? Like,
Yeah.
that's a place they could show up, and then they would be big man on campus.
I think they could be,
Yeah.
Maybe it could maybe the Haitians can be like, yeah, I mean, yeah. Maybe the Haitians will be like, yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
we're we're just telling, like, I don't know, the Haitians will be glad to see them,
Yeah.
No, I don't know. Yeah, that could be a big thing. It could be a civilizational thing. I mean, it would be a kinder thing, I think, to make like labor brigades or something, to just round people up. You're gonna work. You're gonna be. You're gonna make. I don't know, railroad tracks. Like, I don't know what you would have them do. Like the National Park Service or something. That would be a kinder thing than what we're doing now. Anything would be.
Yeah.
It's just the idea that you have to let them do it. You have to let them engage in their self-destructive behaviors in the street, even though it ruins everything for everyone else. It's just a nice thing to do. That's become a huge problem.
Yeah.
But the homeless people is just one manifestation of this, I guess. That it's just creating this kind of bum thing, this culture or whatever. I mean, you just look at this stuff, it's all messed up. Like, I don't know. It's not like, I don't know. I've been talking to old timers sometimes, like, and you're like, oh, ask people about how things were, and but I was asking like people about like what they thought about like hippies and stuff when they first showed up. But people would say that they were scary. They thought it was like a scary thing. It might have looked different, and they say it did look different, but it was kind of like a scary lifestyle. But it wasn't as scary as what we have now. But it was kind of like a similar thing. Like, they'd say, like, well, there'd be, like, these weird people who would just be, like, they'd live in a van and smoke weed all the time, And it was just scary to have around back then, But now, you just look at this stuff, Like, you go to California, and it's just, like, incredible, like, that these people are coming up with this stuff. Like, I don't know. I think we've come up with some workable solutions, though.
Yeah.
We've probably talked for long enough on this, yeah.
Yeah, I think we've covered the topic extensively.
But yeah, all right, man. I think we'll just end it at that, unless you have anything else. No.
I don't think so. I think I've said my piece.
Right on. Well, Randall, thank you. Thank you for being on the show, and that was our take on that was a take, right? I mean, that's Randall's take, and I think it's I mean, I think it's something to chew on, is what it is, because it's someone's got to come up with a solution to this problem. Like, I mean, it's a real problem. Like, I don't know. But I don't know. But yeah, thank you for coming on.
For sure.
All right.
Anytime.